Welcome to the William Blake Fellowship. I'm Catherine on behalf of the William Blake Fellowship. On this special day, it's the wedding anniversary of Catherine and William Blake. She was 19, he was 23 on this day when they first wed. It's a lovely programme tonight to celebrate this unique partnership that not only lasted or spanned over 45 years, but it continues to live. And their work together is still with us today. One of the patrons had said of their marriage at the even 20-year stage that they are still as fond of each other as if on their honeymoon. They were still shining. They seemed animated by one soul, and that soul an indefatigable industry and benevolence. She, in the printing partnership, was a clean hand operator, laying dampened paper on inked plates. And the inked plates he had inked and designed and etched. So a partnership in every sense. And that's unusual today, to hear a story about married love or long-term relationship love. So we welcome this presentation, written for us especially by Simon Clarke, a writer. And Simon has told us that Catherine and William Blake had very much a strong presence in his life for over 40 years. And they have informed his teaching in the community and education in Lambeth, where he lives, and also in his writing and his music. So we'll maybe hear more from Simon Clarke later, as we have our Q&A after the presentation. But for now, we'd just like to get on with the presentation and do enjoy. And as ever, please feel free to give us feedback on the email or later after you've relaxed from a lovely, lovely evening. So we'll move forward now into the programme. Enjoy and relax.
There is a moment in each day that Satan cannot find, nor can his watch fiends find it. But the industrious find this moment, and it multiplies. And when once it is found, it renovates every moment of the day, if rightly placed.
William and Catherine Blake create those moments, when they can, away from the drudgery of the work that brings in the needfuls. Designs for Joshua Wedgwood's earthenware porcelain catalogue. Copy engraving of the designs of other artists and publications, such as fashion plates for the Ladies' New and Polite Pocket Memorandum Book, Lavater's essays on physiognomy, designed to promote the knowledge and the love of mankind, and engravings for Erasmus Darwin's book, Botanic Garden. Always copying and engraving other artists' images or illustrations of other people's verse. But after hours of hard physical effort, they turn at last to their own creations. Catherine prepares the brushes and mixes paints, while William inspects the copper plate that bears the text and image he has designed, and they will now print. They are focused. They move with careful deliberation round the workroom, performing the familiar rituals. The skills they deployed in the bread and butter commission work can now be devoted to commissions from eternity. Back and forth they go to a beat that turns their movements into a graceful dance. Finally, he is at his workbench. She fetches the pigment that she has pounded to make a base colour. He works with the dabber, gently padding at the plate to create an even finish. She leans over his shoulder to see how every detail is covered. He works methodically. The pressure must not be too great or too slight. He is like a musician, keeping up a steady rhythm. They prepare for the final stages of the process they have developed, from notebook to sketch design, from engraving to the applying of the aqua fortis that burns away surfaces so that words and images stand out. The copper plate is fixed and ready to print. She takes the copper plate over to the press and places a sheet of paper carefully onto the bed of it. He turns the great star wheel hand over hand. She waits expectantly. The wheel creaks. The roller bears down on the paper and copper plate until, careful now, the printed page emerges. She unwraps the package from its protective coverings. Gently, gently, she plays her vital part. Her expert fingers release the clean print. William watches on, an anxious spectator. He smiles as he wipes his hand on his apron. She has done it. She raises the print to the light. It is wonderful. Next, the colouring of image and text. She takes a fine brush. Vines and flowers spring to life as she works. And as she works, she recalls the flower beds of her family's market gardens and the light on the river. She stops in the midst of her work. She sees a church on a summer's day.
Our church, St. Mary's, where we were wed. Sunlight streamed through the windows. I smell the heavy scent of the flowers that decorate the aisles. The great bunches my family have placed on window ledges and at the end of pews. I know the names of all the flowers. My brothers and sisters look back as we enter. My father squeezes my arm. We walk towards the altar, where William stands, nervously waiting. Thinking of that lovely day takes me back to when I first saw him. It was so electrifying. I instantly recognized my future partner and was so near fainting that I had to leave his presence until I'd recovered. I had been gathering flowers for posies when he suddenly appeared at my side. He'd been lodging with us, having a break from London. He grabbed the flowers I was holding, stuck his nose right in the blooms. I was frightened he'd crush them. He told me all about his sweetheart, his lost love, he called her. Then he said,
"Do you pity me?"
"Yes, indeed I do."
"Then I love you."
We picked more flowers. Then we walked back to the house, together, our hearts as one, dancing with mirth. just as it felt on our wedding day. So long ago. Or yesterday.
She looks across the workroom at her husband, absorbed in his work. He feels her gaze and looks up and smiles. Those eyes. Later, he watches as she concentrates on her painting.
How quickly she learnt the tasks to support my visions. Now we work as one, delighting in the energy of the creations that burst from the page, shaking their fiery wings.
I coloured this. I am proud of my work.
So, Catherine manages the household and works alongside William, first as apprentice and now as a skilled craftswoman in her own right. Samuel Palmer refers to one of the colours in their palette as Mrs. B's white. William trusts her. He knows he can rely on her in all the tasks they jointly undertake as she works alongside him at the press, taking the prints from the rollers, gently, skillfully working to assist him in his visions. The poet and his wife did everything in making the book: writing, designing, printing, engraving, everything except manufacturing the paper. The very ink, or colour rather, they did make. A cross-pollination, ideas into action. But there is more. She is more than this. Her calm presence, her agile stillness, her fortitude sustains them both. She is the true leader of his angels. Through shared skills, paying close attention to the minute particulars, Catherine and William Blake ignite the burning fires of thought.
He who binds himself to a joy does the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. Oh, Will, that's beautiful.
Summer's evening, close to Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens in Lambeth, 1798. Suddenly, they're in shadow. The sunlight disappears. They look up as open-mouthed. A great beast is flying over their heads. It roars. Flames shoot up into its hollow belly. It is a huge balloon. There are people in the frail basket that hangs beneath the painted globe. For a moment, they're speechless.
Let's fly together across the river.
What? In that?
She shivers at the thought, but no such flights are always possible. Their work takes them close to the stars. And she will be at his side when they return to Earth, when they come back to London with a bump. London, in all its moods, its tensions, its noise, its dangers, the pell-mell rush of events, the ongoing war with France. This is the world they know, that they depict and endure.
I wander through each chartered street, near where the chartered Thames does flow, and mark in every face I meet marks of weakness, marks of woe. In every cry of every man, in every infant's cry of fear, in every voice, in every ban, the mind-forged manacles I hear. How the chimney sweepers cry, every blackening church appalls, and the hapless soldier's sigh runs in blood down palace walls. But most through midnight streets I hear how the youthful harlot's curse blasts the newborn infant's tear, and blights with plague the marriage hearse.
I hate that line, the one about the marriage hearse. It frightens me, Will.
I write as I see.
She feels what he says. She endures his anger and indignation, at slights, at missed opportunities. She consoles, she cajoles, and an excellent cook, she nourishes and supports him. And what does she get? It's confusing. What does her husband want of her? What does he expect?
When a man has married a wife, he finds out whether her knees and elbows are only glued together. Abstinence sows sand all over the ruddy limbs and flaming hair. But desire gratified plants fruits of life and beauty there.
What is he saying? What does he want of me? Love seeketh not itself to please, nor for itself hath any care, but for another gives its ease, and builds a heaven in hell's despair. So sung a little clod of clay, trodden with the cattle's feet, but a pebble of the brook warbled out these meters meet. Love seeketh only self to please, to bind another to its delight, joys in another loss of ease, and builds a hell in heaven's despite.
He hurts her with his words, his jealousies. At times she feels he has her in his sight. She grows silent. There is a silence between them. There is stillness. There is rage. Until he comes back to her.
My flame of many colours, my shadow of delight.
But the walls of the city are closing in, sensing dangers, feeling watched by government spies. One by one, those in his radical circle, his friends, are arrested and tried for sedition against the crown. William descends into a deep melancholy.
A disease which God keep you from, and all good men.
They must get away from London.
What? Leave London? Pack up everything just like that?
Imagine the wrench, leaving all they know behind, heading into the deep countryside, with all their world packed around them, pots and pans and paints and printing press, heading for... huge sky, the sea, and the song of birds.
The lark, sitting upon his earthy bed, just as the morn appears, listens silent, then, springing from the waving cornfield, loud leads the choir of day. Thrill, thrill, thrill. The skylark is a mighty angel.
And Felpham Cottage.
Of cottages, the prettiest. Felpham is the sweetest spot on earth. At least it is to me and my good wife.
And visions. And William Hayley, patron, gentleman poet, and full-time bore, with all his well-meaning requests and laborious demands on their time. William designs and engraves endless illustrations, while Catherine prints endless copies. A charity broadside ballad, Little Tom the Sailor, to relieve the necessities of a meritorious poor woman on the Kentish coast. Poem by William Hayley. A series of heads of illustrious poets to adorn the great library in Turret House, the home of William Hayley. Illustrations to a book of ballads founded on anecdotes relating to animals, author William Hayley.
Sheer drudgery.
Through it all, and on top of everything else, imagine working round that printing press in the narrowest of cottages. Catherine is the ever-present diplomat, smoothing ruffled feathers, settling arguments when William falls out with friends and patrons.
My title as a genius is proved, not praised by Hayley, nor by Flaxman loved. Hayley's friendship, thy friendship oft has made my heart to ache. Do be my enemy for friendship's sake.
And calming fits of rage, jealousy, and fear.
When Hayley finds out what you cannot do, that is the very thing he'll set you to. If you break your neck, 'tis not his fault. But pecks of poison are not pecks of salt.
They are able to keep things on an even keel until a terrible thing happens. It is the 12th of August, 1803, in Felpham, Sussex. Look, there's Catherine. She is with William in their cottage. But William has just had an encounter with a soldier, John Schofield. They had scuffled as William drove him from the garden and then frog-marched him down the road. Words were exchanged, dangerous words. What did Blake say? Damn you and damn the king. That's treason. The village is full of soldiers waiting. They're on high alert, but up to no good. The whole country is on edge. Napoleon might invade at any moment.
Will, are you listening to me? We must go and see Mr. Hayley. He's the only one who can help us. There is no one else we can turn to. Can you hear me, William?
What? What did you say?
Then I will go see Mr. Haley and tell him what has happened, though I'm sure word's already got to him. Will, you stay here. Do not answer the door. I don't trust those soldiers out there. Sit tight until I get back. Stay in the house. Do you hear me?
Stay in the house? Where are you going?
I am going to see Haley. We need his advice.
Oh, very well. Go. I am to stay here.
Yes. Do not move from that chair and don't answer the door to anyone. I will be back as soon as I can.
My dear Catherine.
You've heard then?
Yes, yes, I have heard something, but wait, you're very pale. Sit down. I will have Walter fetch a cordial to revive you. No, please. Sit. Take your time.
Thank you, Mr. Haley.
William, please.
Thank you, William.
Now, when you are ready, tell me what has occurred.
It was terrible. I heard shouting in the garden. I rushed out. There was William, squaring up to this soldier who had appeared from nowhere. I tried to get between them, but before I could, William had hold of him and was pushing him out of the garden. There was a lot of shouting and toing and froing, but the soldier didn't put up much resistance. He was smiling back at William, who had him by his collar and was pushing him forward out onto the road. I followed them, trying to get William away, but he was deaf to me, and the soldier was goading him all the way. People came into the lane to see what all the noise was about. I could see Will getting more and more angry. He muttered something, and the soldier immediately shouted in front of the whole village that William had said, "Damn you and damn the king." It was like it had all been planned. Do you understand? He just knew how to get under William's skin. The shouting and name-calling went on all the way down the lane to the Fox Inn. A group of soldiers had gathered outside. They started joining in. It was terrible. Mr. Grinder came out. He managed to calm things down. He did what I couldn't do. He got in between the soldier and William. Of course, the soldiers' mates were all there by now. Some called out, encouraging him. "Go on, Scully, go to it, give him what for." I managed to get alongside William, but he couldn't see me. It was as if there was an invisible wall between us.
There, my dear, don't upset yourself. Here, drink this. It's a medicinal cordial. I've made it myself. It will soothe you. Oh, my poor Catherine.
Will you help us, sir?
But of course, we must act quickly, though. I suspect that the soldier and his mate will take this further. If so, we will be ready for them. I have an excellent advocate in Chichester. We will engage him to support William should the worst transpire.
The worst?
Go quickly now, dry your eyes, and let us make our plans.
And when Haley could not act upon my wife, hired a villain to bereave my life.
Somehow, and with Haley's help, the worst does not happen. William is tried, but found not guilty of sedition. William and Catherine return to London. They press on with their work. They press on through the darkness. They work tirelessly every day at the press, still struggling to bring in the needfuls. Through Catherine's tact and skills as a diplomat and manager of the household.
I look across at him. He's always far away, always in paradise. See how he works on with serenity, even when there's only a shilling left in the house. And I know he spent that shilling on a camel hair brush.
What?
The money is going, Mr. Blake. Has gone.
Oh, damn the money. It's always the money.
There's only one way to avoid another outburst. For dinner, she sets before him, without comment, each evening, whatever there is left in the house, until, eventually, an empty plate is laid before him. Unperturbed, her husband takes the hint and focuses on the dreary commission work again. But frustrations with it can boil over.
Ow! That just missed me.
She picks up the copper plate he has flung across the room.
Copper is expensive, Will. We can't afford to buy another.
But his bright smile is beaming back at her.
Kate, dear, it's fine. I threw it in a way that wouldn't damage it.
They persist. They endure. More than that, they pick up the threads and weave wonders.
I give you the end of a golden string. Only wind it into a ball. It will lead you in at heaven's gate, built into Jerusalem's wall.
Gold, like the light on the Thames that William sees through the narrow window in Fountain's Court.
Shining like a bar of gold.
They step into the light. They have watched the skylarks climb to the very edge of heaven. They have flown on their own wings across time and space. Now they stand on the shore of the great ocean. The spirit of prophecy inspires them. And at the last he reassures her. He tells her what he sees in eternity, where they will be as one.
O lovely emanation of Albion, awake and overspread all nations as in the ancient time. For lo, the night of death is past, and the eternal day appears upon our hills. Awake, Jerusalem, and come away.
Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why must you sleep the sleep of death and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake. Thy hills and valleys felt her feet gently upon thy bosom move. Thy gates beheld sweet Zion's waves. Then was a time of joy and love. Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why must you sleep the sleep of death and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake. And now the time returns again. Our souls exult in London's towers. Receive the Lamb of God to dwell in England's green. and pleasant bowers. Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why must you sleep the sleep of death and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake. Why must you sleep the sleep of death and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake.
Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why wilt thou sleep the sleep of death and close her from thy ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake.
London, 1831, 17 Charlton Street, Fitzroy Square. Catherine speaks to him every day. To her, he is no further away than the next room. She will soon be with him. In the meantime,
I have taken care of everything. I have not let you down, William. I won't be told what to do by Linnell and the others. I will complete the paintings.
she takes up her paintbrush. William's voice dictates what colours to use. He leans over her shoulder, making sure every detail is covered. She works methodically. The pressure must not be too great or too slight.
Gently, gently.
The light and vigour are his and hers. She smiles as she works. She sees him again, propped up in bed, smiling at her.
Stay as you are. I will draw you. You have always been an angel to me.
She remembers him. And suddenly, his spirit is close to her now.
Dear Kate, my shadow of delight, desire gratified plants fruits of life and beauty. You and I have enjoyed those fruits, and now we will share what we have made, our creations, our gifts to children of a future age. May they find what we have proved. This world of imagination is the world of eternity. Take my hand, Kate. Come away.
William.
He who binds to himself a joy does the winged life destroy.
But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise.
And so that story comes to an end, but the story lives on to us today. So let's hold on to that moment that we have now, precious in the present, that it told us at the start that there's a moment in every day that Satan cannot find. So let's just take the moment, and with his help of all the beautiful images that we've enjoyed, like Blake has told us, when the doors of perception are cleansed, we will see things as they really are, infinite. So to help us in that precious moment, we're now just going to play some music. And we mentioned the lark earlier, and the lark is a very ancient symbol of the connection between the earth realm and the divine realm. So we'll play some music now by Ralph Vaughan Williams, The Lark Ascending, and we can enjoy William Blake's painting of the youthful poet dreams. So we'll play that for about 6 minutes or so, and then we'll just sit in silence. And then when we've enjoyed that, we'll move on to the next part of the programme, which is a chance to meet our performers. And so we hope you'd manage to have a nice Blakean experience, the experience that Catherine could pass on to future generations through their work. So we'll move into the next part of the programme now, and that is to invite the writer of our performance this evening. And we'd like to invite Simon Clarke to join us to tell us a little bit more about this programme. So Simon would like to bring on his camera. That's lovely. And maybe we can unmute Simon. 1 second. Yeah. You can turn your sound on. Yeah,
it's not allowed.
Okay. We've got you now. We can
Yeah,
hear
you can hear me now. Oh, great! That's
and
great.
This is great. You're all the way from South London. It's not like you're in New York or Australia or anything.
Well, actually, no. I'm under the big skies of Suffolk today.
Are you really? You travel?
Yeah. And we have skylarks at the back, so at this harvest time, so it's all very apt. But first of all, I want to thank you, Catherine, and the fellowship for this opportunity, and now especially to give sort of virtual grand applause to the performers tonight. They were wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's really, on behalf of us all, I thought their performance was outstanding. So thank you all.
Oh, thank you. Well, thanks right back at you for creating such a beautiful piece. It's so different to anything we generally see about William Blake, and there's always so much to say about William Blake. So if anyone has any questions for Simon, you can pop them along on chat or the email I've got here. Right. So do let me know. But to get that going, as I say, there's so much of Blake, and it takes into even this century. We're still trying to fathom and enjoy. So what was it about this particular aspect of the Blake's life that interested you?
Well, it's this combination of William's unshakable sense of self-worth and Catherine's, I don't know how to describe it, her loving pragmatism. You talked about the empty plate episode in the piece. And it's this wonderful shared strength and determination which leads to a belief in what they were doing, a shared belief, and a trust in each other's visions. She saw visions too. And so that left no room for doubt. Mind you, there was no room for much to go on in the little apartments that they lived in, rooms dominated by a huge star wheel press and so on. But there was no room for doubt. And that reminds me of, what's the Blake line? If the sun and moon were to doubt, they would immediately go out. And the strength of their conviction carries them through to this extraordinary partnership of equals, I believe. And it's that's borne out in some of the contemporary references. Blake's friend, the engraver J.T. Smith, said that Blake allowed Catherine to the last moment of his practice to take of his proof impressions and print his works, which he did most carefully. And her work as a printer was highly regarded by those contemporaries. So this strength is coming together, and this loving relationship leads to ensure that the gates were always open to the creative processes that they both explored. And, you know, what a remarkable achievement on her part. From when they married, she put a cross next to her name. And by the end, she was dealing with the high and mighties like Lord Egremont and so forth to ensure that their achievements were passed on to future generations. A remarkable woman.
Wow, and so
Happy
nice.
to, yeah.
So nice that a gentleman has written this story. You would expect maybe one of the ladies to pick up on that, but that's just so special that you've been sensitive to the role that the woman plays in a marriage, in a partnership, in a long term. That energy that she brings.
Well, it reflects my own experience, my loving wife. I said it's the 238th anniversary, and she said, "What? Is that our anniversary?" No, we haven't been together that long. But you get the idea.
Oh, this is such a honor to have a play written for you, for your wife. So on that, we've got a question here. Of the story, in writing something about people who, particularly Blake, is well documented, how much of that was fiction or how much was non-fiction?
Well, I think most of what I put together is based in facts, based in the correspondence that I've read, based on the research that I've done, and based on the observations from the time in letters and so on. So for example, they lived close to Vauxhall Gardens for many years. They must have seen all kinds of extraordinary things happening. They were living in an age of wonder, to quote Richard Holmes's book. And in that age, anything might happen in the arts and in the sciences. So it was an extraordinary time. And I've tried to reflect that in the situations that I've described.
It's also nice how in a 45-year-long relationship, not even just a marriage, but it endured was the word used, but also all the ups and downs. You didn't shy away from that.
No, I felt that was important. One biographer compares her to the wife of Job, and she had a lot to put up with in those terms, really. And she was so resilient and so forthright as well in her own way of dealing with things. And I think we don't give women and partners in general the credit that they deserve in a creative relationship. And so I'm happy that much work is being done now to redress the balance. I mean, the latest show, I think, did something towards that.
So we have another question here.
Sure.
Of all the biographies, which one is your favourite and why? There's many biographies, of course. So which is your go-to one?
My go-to one might surprise some people, but it's by a writer called Mona Wilson, Life of Blake, that was written in way back in 1927. And it just so happened to be reprinted in about 1970 when I was getting interested in Blake. And it's full of empathy and compassion. And I think she writes really well about the relationship between Catherine and William. And so that's the one I'd recommend. I don't know if it's still in print, but it's around. Get it on Amazon. Not Amazon, don't go to Amazon, go somewhere else. But it's around.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by and to talk to us as well.
My pleasure.
And Suffolk, and that's been really interesting. And if anyone does have any further questions, maybe you can email us.
Yeah.
You see the address there, and even after today, email us, and we could pass that on and keep the conversation going, as we say.
That'd be great.
From presentation to presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, just sharing this very unique aspect of the Blake's relationship and of Blake's life, and the story behind what supported him in his creative journey. So we'll say goodbye to you at the moment.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Simon. And so we just really can't finish the evening with our next interview, and that is you heard the voices who brought the story to life. Without the script, story doesn't exist. Nothing can happen. But without the performers, the actors, we can't bring it to life, and we can't feel that shared experience. So I'd like to now invite our performers, our actors tonight, who really gave us a whole side of the Blake story that we hadn't seen. So if they would like to join us now, our performers. And hello, we've got Chris Naylor, who played William Blake, Jamie Newell, who played the narrator, and Carol Starks, of course, the Catherine Blake. So, yeah, I'll second that from Simon. That's the writer, who's very, very pleased with the interpretation. And of course, this is the first time this play, if you like, has ever been aired. So this is a world premiere. And our actors have done a fine job. Thank you so much. So we'll start with just a few questions. I know as actors, you'd rather let your work speak for you, and of course that's absolutely wonderful. But we'd love to know what it's like to be in the shoes of those people that you just. So if we can start with Jamie. I mean, you were the mainstay there, telling the whole story, all the ups and downs and all the dramas. So in performing it, we heard the whole story there. What about the story stood out for you, would be memorable for you?
Well, I should be honest and admit right from the off that I know very little about William and Catherine Blake. So it was a delight and a voyage of discovery for me to read this script and to be given the opportunity to learn a little bit more about them. I think the thing that struck me most was their wonderful collaboration, that the way they seemed to work so seamlessly together, and ultimately each enjoyed their own very special contribution to all their works. It sounds like the most phenomenal marriage in a way. I think she sounds very much like the more patient half of the partnership, putting up with his artistic temperament, but clearly her contribution and her support of William was vital to his creativity. It was fascinating, really interesting to learn something about them.
And did you learn about Blake at school? I mean, I presume you grew up in
a long time ago. No, I think we did very little. Obviously, I'm familiar with some of his illustrations, and sadly there was a wonderful exhibition in London recently, wasn't there? I'm ashamed to say I missed that as well. But no, I mean that they're such iconic pieces that you do recognize his style very immediately, and that wonderful flow and the rich colors he uses, that wonderful flow of line and just exhilarating stuff to look at. Lovely.
Oh, thank you. We've got a question here about narration. This seems to be of interest to our Blakeans, and that is, in telling that story, how do you manage to keep the rhythm and the flow? Because there's so much happening in any storytelling. How do you, using your voice, to keep the rhythm and the flow of the story that you're able to do so well?
Well, I think there are very different tones in the passage and very different elements to the story. So I think you just have to respect what the writer has written and embrace his text and follow his lead, really. So there were lots of different episodes and each one has a different tone. So I think you just have to go with that and follow that tone as precisely as you can so that it doesn't become generalized.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, thank you. We'll see if any more come in. So meanwhile, we'll ask Chris, who played William Blake. How interesting. We don't see, unlike Shakespeare's work or other great writers, we don't see often pieces about William Blake. So what was it like to play William Blake?
It's rather wonderful luxury, isn't it? The chance to play somebody so extraordinary It's quite an unusual thing. I mean, as you say, he's not somebody who's been, as far as I'm aware, has not been depicted very much. He's rather overdue a film, isn't he? He could do with something like that wonderful Turner film that Mike Leigh did, something like that. So yes, just to have a chance to have a little insight into his life, even for just a short time, is marvelous. I mean, like Jamie, I don't know a great deal about Blake, and through my school's shame, my university's shame, he wasn't on our curriculum. So apart from perhaps a Tiger or something like that. So yeah, I feel it's a gap in my knowledge. So that's also been rather wonderful to get to know his work and to learn something about his life.
And you actually inhabited his skin for a bit there. How interesting. Maybe the muse will come upon you.
Oh, I hope so.
But I think it already has, because we know that you are you're an artist. You like to paint as well, yes. As well as an actor. So that you must have maybe drawn upon that to play Blake. But did you feel that your work as an artist or a painter today has better prospects than maybe someone like Blake in his day 200 years ago trying to get his work out there? Or what difference is there, do you think, from
well, yeah, I mean, I would never dare to compare myself with a dabbler. Blake was a visionary, wasn't he? And I think there probably are still people like that working today. I wonder if it's any easier for them now, because although there are many other ways of getting your work to be seen, which of course Blake didn't really have, he had to invent them, invent new ways. I think what that means is there's far more competition. There's a lot of noise, isn't there? Cultural noise. There's always another image to look at. So it's still very hard. It's always very hard for creative people, and even for true originals. And I mean, there's nobody. I can't think of anybody to compare Blake to. So maybe posterity is the best judge of that sort of thing.
Oh,
so I mean, maybe in 100 years' time, we'll see some extraordinary people from our time.
Yeah. Oh, maybe they're out there now, creating work, not just imagery, but music and sound and all. So let's hope.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's a really interesting insight. And so, just moving on to Carol, Catherine Blake. Wow, wonderful. And she sings. Catherine Blake singing. What a beautiful voice. I really enjoyed that, and I'm sure many people didn't expect to hear Catherine Blake singing. Well, and when you inhabited her skin, so to speak, what impression did you get of her when you had to take on the mantle of Catherine Blake?
She's quite an extraordinary woman, really. There's so many aspects to her, which I think everybody who's spoken before has covered. Her resilience, her pragmatism, her support of him. It was a wonderful relationship, and the mutual respect they had and the mutual support. It just came across really beautifully in this piece. It was very touching. Her support for him, her total belief in him, and very strong but very sensitive at the same time. I thought she came across on the paper really beautifully.
And what would be her strongest quality, do you think?
I suppose faith in him, in God, in what they were doing together. I guess belief and faith.
Oh, so I'll just one last question of the actors today. What insight, or did you get any insight about doing the play today that you learned that you could maybe apply to your own life? Was there something you thought, gosh, yeah, they were such a lovely example as someone in a long-term relationship or a working partnership? Was there anything you picked up from that? Any tips that you might think, oh, I'll have some of that?
Well, belief, as Carol was saying, belief in the work that you're pursuing, and I think for all of us, we work in a world that is always under threat, and particularly at the moment, like so many other things. So that sort of that burning flame of belief and faith in whatever it is you're trying to pursue, that's such an inspiration.
Jamie, you were going to say something?
I think following instincts and flashes of inspiration and seeing them through, I think having the courage to see them through.
Wow, yeah. God, they battled through everything, didn't they? And even at a time when they weren't getting any feedback at all. And Carol, did you pick up anything that inspired you, maybe?
I think just it was a very believable portrayal of a relationship, a long-term relationship, the patience, but also, you know, saying your piece, but allowing the other person to have their time to say their piece, and that mutual, the way they complemented each other, I think is what makes a relationship work.
Wow, so we've all learned something tonight, not just from the play and Blake and Catherine, but from you as performers who inhabited those roles so beautifully, and you brought them to life for us. It's amazing. So we look to get feedback from anyone who's been watching the programme today, and it's just been absolutely special and unique. So thank you so much for bringing your creative talents to this lovely project. It really did make it sing. So thank you so much, Carol and Jamie. Thank you so much, and we hope you will come back again to the Blake Fellowship and do some readings for us. That was just wonderful. So you're supposed to say yes at that.
Oh yes, that would be wonderful. We'd love it. Sure.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye to you then, and we do hope to see you again. You have an open invite to come back and share your talent. Right. Thank you so much. So we'll just move on now, and just all there is now is to say not just thank you to the amazing people who have helped us bring this programme to you, but also to thank you for coming and supporting a nice little project that we're doing here online originally to keep us uplifted during lockdown. And if you'd like to hear more of our presentations, get advanced notice of that and the links to access it on the night or the day, you can just email us at williamblakefellowship@mail.com, not Gmail, at mail.com. And it helps us if you just put in the subject line, please add me to your mailing list, and we'll immediately pick you out and make sure we don't lose you. And so all that remains then is to give credit to everyone who has come together to put this, and we'll play some music so you can just enjoy some of the music that we had in the programme. And please do read the credits, because as I think Jamie or Chris was saying, in these times, in the lockdown, and theatres are not open and people can't really get together to perform, and it's what we need. It is the lifeblood. Human beings need the creative arts to keep ourselves connected. Like the lark, we want to keep ourselves in tune with these higher powers, these dimensions, and we want the doors of perceptions cleansed, and the art and music and the performers who bring that to us. It's nice to support them. So you'll see the links on our next slide. So that just leaves me now to say goodbye. Thank you for coming to the programme, and please do tell us your Blakean experience. That's always really valuable to us. And do enjoy the music and having a look at the credits, who did what, and do support the creative artists. So love you and leave you until the next presentation, next Blakean presentation. So take care, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why must you sleep the sleep of death, and closer from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake. Thy hills and valleys felt her feet gently upon thy bosom move. Thy gates beheld sweet Zion's ways. Then was a time of joy and love. Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why must you sleep the sleep of death, and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake. And now the time returns again. Our souls exult in London's towers. Receive the Lamb of God to dwell in England's green and pleasant bowers. Awake, awake, O England, awake, O lovely emanation of Albion. Jerusalem, thy sister, she calls you on. Why must you sleep the sleep of death, and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake. Why must you sleep the sleep of death, and close her from your ancient walls? Awake, O England, awake.